Hello, everybody, and welcome to Untethered.tv. I'm your host and founder, Rob Woodbridge, and, I don't think I have to remind you guys why you come here, but if I do, today is the reason that you did. I've had some amazing guests. Over 400 entrepreneurs have come on to Untethered.tv to talk about how they've built their business in the mobile space. These are thought leaders. These are the guys with the feet on the street doing the things that you should be doing. Don't copy them. Learn from them. Look for ideas from them. Don't copy. Don't copy. Today I am blessed. I love speaking with Gary Schwartz. There's two reasons why I love. First, every time I speak to him, whether it's in person, whether it's on the phone, or whether it's watching him do a keynote, or whether it's reading his books, I learn something every single time. The second thing is that I don't know anybody who's more enthusiastic about this mobile industry than Gary. He is the CEO of Impact Mobile. He is the chair of MEF Americas. He is also the author of The Impulse Economy and the brand new book, Fast Shopper, Slow Store. I'm going to pull it up right here, even before I get to Gary. Fast Shopper, Slow Store. And I think this is what we're going to be talking about. We're talking about a lot of things around this, but the retail industry in particular. And I'm going to welcome Gary Schwartz in. Gary, thank you for doing this, man. I really appreciate it.
Hey, listen, I love chatting with you, Rob.
Well, it's true. I don't know anybody who's more enthusiastic about this, who gets more excited about this. And, I had the privilege of having...
Well, it's pretty exciting. I mean, you're in a world where everything's being disrupted, but the thing that's disrupting it is also the vehicle to change business models. So you're in an opportunity to embrace the phone, as well as think of it as an intimidating device. It's also your ticket out of here, right?
It's so meta. It's so it's the thing that destroys, that recreates, that builds again. It's crazy.
It is.
Well, I had the great privilege of seeing you speak at Untethered Talks around this subject, Fast Shopper, Slow Store, and it was captivating. A great response from the audience, and I'm so thrilled that you've encapsulated this into a book, and now everybody can begin to understand what's going on in this retail space. So, before we get into the book itself, talk about what you've been doing since our last interview, which was probably about a year ago when the Impulse Economy came out. You have been so active, man. It's crazy what you've been doing. Like 2 days in Toronto, 363 days outside of the city. Isn't that right?
Yeah, a lot of flying. That's why I get to write, because it's the only place where I shut down a bit. A lot of traveling, and you know what? It's been a very exciting year, and working a lot on security and privacy issues, because those are the roadblocks to consumer adoption. So a lot of FTC work and continuing work with X9 and the security side. Look, it's not going to slow down, Rob. Yeah, we know that, right? So every chance I get, I'm at an event and I'm meeting with clients, and it's fun.
Well, have you ever? I mean, we're both fans of this industry. We both understand this marvelous impact that is about to happen, and the fact that every company that you look at, big or small, every building with 1,000 floors or one floor, and every company inside of that is ripe for disruption as a result of this. This kind of blows that, it levels everything pretty clearly. But in the year, pretty much since we've talked, have you seen the thawing? Have you seen people begin to understand the impact that this industry is having?
Yeah. Well, you know what? It always actually, I'm always blown away at walking into large companies who haven't really started to understand how to tackle mobile. And well, the biggest problem is that mobile is such a amorphous and difficult word to grasp. And because it's so sexy, and because it has the potential of revenue, attached to it, everybody sort of puts an M in front of whatever they do, which makes it more confusing, right? And the reality is, and this is sort of my philosophy and sort of somewhat what the book is about, is that, mobile is dead. Long live mobile, right? The idea of talking about mobile as a siloed entity that you throw off to your digital department to deal with is gone. Mobile is dead because, and I know we've touched on this a little bit with you before, because the whole idea of online as a concept needed a foil. It needed sort of a juxtaposition. So you had online, which was everything around your desk that was tethered, to a cable. And then when you went to lunch or when you went to the mall, you had your trusty device with you. And that was the mobile element, right? So it was, we used to talk about taking online for a walk with my clients, because that was a nice metaphor for saying, guys, you got to stop being desk bound, But those days are gone, because online really is not a reality anymore. People are not tethered in any way. So, and when online sort of has faded as a concept, really the whole idea of talking about mobile has very little meaning.
Yeah.
What we like to talk about now, what I like to talk about now is basically connected screens. So my big thing is, look, every device is connected in some way. And really the discussion now is not about mobile. It's about understanding what screen does what during the narrative of the day. And each screen, as we know, has its own DNA. It has its own engagement. And if you as a retailer, you as a healthcare vertical entrepreneur, you as in the banking sector, in the publishing sector, if you do not know how to follow your customer through that narrative, if you do not know how to seamlessly engage across all those multiple screens and engage in such a way which is relevant to what that person does on that screen, your business is going to be rudely disintermediated, because no longer, we know this, no longer is the consumer, politely following you, right? And so from a retail perspective, gone with the days that you open up a new store, you put some balloons outside and you say, opening sale, and you hope, that all these mall loving, customers are going to file through the door and you're going to make tons of money. Because now, in most cases, I say the mobile consumer is promiscuous, right? They're out and about and they're not loyal. And in many cases, the love is gone, and so, how do you reintroduce that love affair? How do you reintroduce loyalty to your relationship with the customer? And that is what we're tackling now. And so it's not about, hey, what am I doing in mobile anymore? Because, that's a very, very one-dimensional discussion. Have I got an app strategy? Do I have a mobile website? Do I have a messaging strategy? You can have that discussion, but really it comes down to, how can I follow somebody across a connected device? And that's a much more amorphous and difficult conversation. But if you don't crack it, and if you don't start finding the love, your business is going to be rudely interrupted.
I love that. I wrote it down here. The promiscuous mobile consumer. Those of you watching or listening right now, that's probably the title of this very post, right? Because it's so perfect. And now I can't get it out of my head, but it's so great. But I'll re-ask that question at the very beginning. Is that, given this, have we advanced any further in your eyes, or are we still at that point where it's just really about that the app strategy or the mobile website strategy from the perspective of big or small companies? I think.
Well, the biggest problem is that when you have incumbent business operations, incumbent technology, and that mobile is happening, that connected devices are happening around you, and that somehow you have to develop a strategy for that. So let's take, Best Buy, let's take Barnes & Noble. They know,
they see
it's very clear that they know they're in trouble.
Yeah.
It's not, and as I say, the writing is on the wall. But the problem is, the writing says you're in deep shit. It does not say what you need to do to get out. So the problem is that they have to support legacy business operations. And a lot of what we're seeing in the retail market, but just generally right across multiple verticals, are that the place that people are doing business, and I don't know if you know the concept ZMOT, but Google talks about ZMOT, which is essentially, you're always in the moment of truth because you've done your research on the web, and you're always in a buying modality because we're all educated consumers now. So in the world of ZMOT, which is zero moment of truth, the space that is most exciting for me is the space between bricks and mortar and the cloud. It's the space between. So in the bricks and mortar, we know that the walls are porous. We know that no longer is somebody running around looking for the blue shirt, right? And we know that everybody's bemoaning showrooming and Target's talking about, oh, woe is me. We know that. So we know that bricks and mortar and the legacy of having big stores is a challenge. And we know that Best Buy is closing doors, and we know that Barnes & Noble is selling tchotchkes for our living rooms and not necessarily selling books, their core DNA. And then we know that the cloud was really built as an also-ran to bricks and mortar, and in most cases has a different P&L, different pricing structure. It's not really seamless for the consumer. And remember, the promiscuous consumer is absolutely, channel agnostic. They're researching here. They're going online. They're going into the store. They're looking for your ads and your media everywhere, and they will engage when they see fit on whatever screen they see fit. So the challenge is that, how do you keep your legacy operations going? Because you can't just shut them down, and reinvent yourself from within. I don't know many companies that have been able to do that. So what you're going to find is you're going to find a lot of companies giving up the ghost. They're going to have to support for their stockholders, for the industry. They're going to have to support their legacy, and somebody more nimble will come in and become the professional showrooming company in the malls. Where I'm most excited about is again that space between bricks and mortar and the cloud. All that media where we spend billions of dollars on media buying, that is literally a signpost that says, I'm here. Yep. It's a branding engagement to say, I'm here. I'm Abercrombie, I'm Gap, I'm, Samsung. But there's no shopping call to action. There's no engagement. And I think what we're going to see is the Tesco model of, virtual engagement on a subway platform, that model turning into a value add on top of the media buy. And I believe that, our proximity purchases, our proximity media buys will turn into places where the consumer, who is an educated ZMOT consumer, will be able to make decisions on products all around them without necessarily having to come into our stores or go into our cloud. Or that's just part of the consumer narrative. And unless we work out a way of keeping that consumer in our circle of trust, in the store, in this middle world between the store and the cloud, and then obviously in the cloud, if we can't keep a circle of trust for our consumer, we will lose that consumer. And as I said, the love is gone, and it's very easy for somebody to buy something from our competitor, because if they make things more fluid, if they make a shopping call to action on their media more fluidly, we have the ability with these phones to check out in a one click, and that is going to happen more and more increasingly over the next 5 years.
So, what's happening with it? Awesome. This is why I love speaking to you, Gary. It's like, 1,000 things are going through my head. And if you're an entrepreneur right now, you should be thinking like there's a million ideas that are just popping up. But this is a riddle. This is a significant riddle. The balance that you put there, like they have to do their old business and they have to do their new business. And at some point, like they can't let go of this, because that's probably 95% of their revenue right now. But this 5% is the most important 5%. So when they're looking at it right now, they're like, okay, we'll get rid of that 5% and focus on the 95. And is that what's going to happen? Like you see this in newspaper. It's not just retail, is it?
No, it's everywhere. But that the problem is when you're the Titanic and you're sailing towards the iceberg.
But the thing is, the difference here is they know that the iceberg is right there and they're heading towards it.
No, the problem is that they think they only have two options. They can either steer hard left or hard right. The reality is they need to turn into an airplane or a submarine.
It's okay. So how do they do that?
Well, they can't.
Okay.
And so a lot of businesses are going out of business. Who's going to become the new showrooming company? Is it going to be Best Buy? No, it's not going to be Best Buy. So Best Buy will open up a few mobile-focused sort of car phone warehouse type, stores, and God bless them. But people are already panicking. Samsung and others are panicking about who's going to become their showroom,
Right.
because they don't have an Apple store in every mall. And I think here's the opportunity. Retail is evolving, and retail has always evolved. And if you look at the history of retail, and I went into this a little bit in my book, The Impulse Economy, it's not as if, at certain junctures of the retail, the evolution of retail, I'm sure that many people have turned around and said, oh my God, stores are dead, or catalogs are dead, and my business is dead. But really, it's an onward going evolution. You can only really evaluate it in 2020 hindsight, right? We know that. So in 2020 hindsight, I think people can look at this stage of the retail, narrative, the history of retail, and say, oh my God, what an amazing period. Because we just got out of that whole sort of Leviathan phase of retail, and now we're into this nimble, follow the consumer phase, and look at company Y, X, Y, and Z that just started up in this period and now are the next best buys. And that's what will happen. And who's going to be the next, who's going to take the showrooming model and embrace it and actually turn it into something? Well, Amazon potentially could, if they can make that, again, they have to cross the chasm. They have to actually, ironically, to come from the cloud into the mall. And so you'll find, I think, that Amazon will probably, and I have no insight into this, but I'm just guessing and feeling in the dark. But, I think that if I was Amazon, I would open up sort of an Apple-esque type store, which would have a Genius Bar, and the Genius Bar would be for books. Yeah. Right? And you could go there with your Kindle, and you could do a Genius Bar experience, and they could showroom for partners in potentially very cheap real estate in the disrupted mall, because the partners will need a blue shirt, and potentially a smart Amazon worker, whatever that turns into, could be the new blue shirt, and curate the conversation into the Amazon cloud, because that's all it is about. It's taking out a mobile device, an MPOS, and saying, well, let's find that item for you. Well, I think you really need this, and let me show it to you, and make you feel comfortable with the purchase, and then let me put this in your wish list, and then bye-bye. Yeah. Check out in the Amazon cloud, right, and we'll ship it to you. So that curational layer, I think, is invaluable. Will it be Amazon? I don't know. I think that there are other companies that could come into the mall. Obviously, Amazon with Zappos and have insights into, shipping to people products, and managing that wonderful customer service engagement through the cloud. But do I know who is the definitive new tenant to the mall? No, but I do know that business as usual is changing, and that's kind of exciting.
So what about? It's very exciting, but it leads me. The question around malls then, and stores and physical stores, and I know, what, I think back 12 years ago when the internet kind of emerged on as a commercial vehicle, and everybody was calling back then, pets.com and grocery.com, and the demise of the grocery store and the demise of the store. We've been through this, Gary.
But grocery is different.
Yes. Well, we'll touch on that.
Grocery is different, right? You can't generalize. Baked beans, I'm not going to buy in the cloud, right? So, and baked beans, I don't need to price check with Amazon. Right, so it's a different engagement. I'll have a POV on that as well. Okay,
and we'll touch on that. But the big thing was that, listen, retail is gone, stores are dead. You're going to buy everything from online, and we're kind of going through that right now, right? You got two sides to this, and maybe they're not heavily, or they're not balanced, but people are saying, listen, it's the end of retail as we know it. There are going to be no malls. There's going to be showrooms, and then there's going to be a poster on a wall that allows you to buy everything, right? So pop-up stores are coming everywhere, and you've used in your presentation the example of I think it was in South Korea. They had in the subway they had you could buy groceries on the wall. staples, and we're seeing this even in airports in Europe right now, where you can buy groceries to have at your home by the time you get home after a long trip. So we're starting to see these experimentations. So does the mall survive here? Like, I don't want to be alarmist here at all, but if we're talking about the reinvention of retail between bricks and mortar and the cloud, then does that mall even remain relevant? Should there be showrooming, or is it basically anywhere you can affix a poster that becomes a store?
So, let's take it back a notch.
Okay.
The shopping experience is a social experience. People go shopping not only to buy things, but to commune with the fellow shopper. Right?
Or complain with them. Right?
And that's why our malls have become entertainment centers. We have, the mall of today is a very different mall to the mall that our parents spend their time in. We have obviously, everything from theater through to, fast food and Starbucks and other destinations which are absolutely places of dwell, right? They dwell locations. Now, in order to succeed in mobile, you need a dwell location. So no way in the world malls are going anywhere, because you cannot just put up a piece of paper at an airport and hope that somebody is going to dwell, because they don't. Dwell locations, I've been doing this for 10 years, Rob, and I can tell you now that nobody in their right mind stops at some media, unless they were going to do it anyway and they were tying their shoes and they just happened to be stuck in front of a poster. Walk by media, which is really 90% of the media that is out there, has very little mobile engagement value, because in order to engage mobilely, I have to be in an interactive position. I am in the interactive position now, right? I'm sitting down, I have both hands free. I don't have to worry about who I'm going to bump into unless I swing really dramatically. Yes. And I have some entertainment in front of me, which is you, right?
That's so sad, man. That's so sad.
Yeah, well, this is what fellows like you and I do. So I'm in the interactive position. And because I'm in the interactive position, I'm fondling with my phone over here, as you've seen me do. And I kind of want to touch the mouse, but I know I'll probably affect this broadcast. I'm looking to click and interact because I'm in the interactive position, okay? We have trained people that the interactive position is a good position to be in when you want to buy stuff, when you want to engage with content, etc. So an interactive position is a dwell position. I have to stop, I have to be focused, there has to be some engagement value in front of me, and I have to have my hands free. Okay, so if I have this in my pocket and I'm walking by some media, a bus shelter or whatever, and I'm not stopping there, I probably am not going to engage with that media. So then it becomes a branding exercise. The stuff that we're talking about, showrooming, when you can actually engage with stuff, needs to be in a place which has a big sign over it which says, this is a mall, this is a place that you go to hang out. And if it's a signpost like that and the consumer goes, good, I'm in my safety zone, I'm with friends, I'm hanging out, I will take out my phone and I will interact with stuff. If you create the right haptic, ergonomic, display for me to do that. Now, that is obviously a very complex sort of industrial design discussion, but it's an opportunity, because if you get the way people deal with interactivity and you get, it's Pavlovian, right? You got to create the right bell to get them to salivate. And if you don't have the right bell, they ain't going to salivate, or you haven't trained them the right way. And it's not for you to train them, it's for you to understand how they trained and take advantage of that. So the bottom line is that I think there's a huge opportunity for malls to reinvent themselves, and they will. And some strip malls may go out of business. Some are going to have a hard time, but I think that, again, in 2020 hindsight, I think mall owners will look at this period and say, gee, I'm glad we made that decision, because now instead of having 5 anchors to my mall, I have 55 smaller, much more healthy anchors, which are giving me a higher margin on my business. And again, I'm always excited about the way things are going, and I think that they're, Apple, for all its wisdom in creating this store structure and doing it very successfully, has really just laid the groundwork for others to come in and do it probably better in a much more nimble fashion.
It's funny because, I think that the retail industry would agree with this simply because of what you're seeing, especially in Canada, the influx of large, big box retailers like Target coming into Canada, coming soon, right? But these guys are taking up, 80,000, 100,000, 200,000 square foot, bases, which used to be Sears or Eaton's, that went out of business. So what I mean, they obviously aren't scared of what's happening here, right? They're going to be packing in inventory and in a traditional business model, right?
Well, I don't know if they're scared. They may be petrified. If you read, the kind of the comments that their CEO has made about showrooming. I mean,
so why do it for them? Like, why would they do that? Why wouldn't they then come in and say, listen, we're going to take up 5,000 square feet and be an efficient store that is exactly what you've talked about? Like, are they not there yet?
Yeah. Well, I mean, first of all, these companies these companies are very efficient at what they're doing. They keep their margins low. One-stop shopping for a very specific demographic, and they do what they do well. Now, if they can keep their margins above a certain level, maybe they're not going to get the same traffic that they once had, or maybe they'll hit some competitors who will steal some of their products and categories. But by and large, they've done what they've done historically for a number of years. They're going to continue to do that and try and refine that model. Companies don't turf out their model midstream. It's not good for their stock price, right? So the reality is that they're just trying to steer the ship well, right? They're not trying to reinvent themselves as an airplane or a submarine. They're trying to steer left, right, and they're trying to navigate the polar caps. But what you're going to find is that those companies are. I mean, let's go back to the days of SONY and the Walkman, right? And then you've got the introduction of digital media, and then obviously people came out of various devices to house that digital media, and suddenly, bam, Apple came in and ate everybody's lunch. And if you look at Sony during that era, what did they do? They came out with smaller devices. They came out with waterproof devices. They came out with, and that was steering the market. But they didn't turn around and say, oh, you know what? We're going to shut down shop and we're going to turn ourselves into an airplane or a submarine to avoid this huge iceberg that's looming. And look, I'm not trying to say that Target's going out of business. I just think that the model is changing dramatically, and I think there are certain companies, new companies that are going to come in that are going to do very well if they understand how to crack the connected screen. And I think it's an opportunity for the new Best Buys. You remember Best Buy, was a company that was once a very small, tiny little company,
nimble company, yes,
yeah. And they grew and grew and grew, and there are other companies that are going to meet the challenges of today's market, and they're going to grow and grow and grow. And that's when you say to your audience, what are the opportunities? There are humongous opportunities now to create a new data relationship with the consumer, because at the end of the day, and we haven't mentioned this, but I know most of your listeners know this, it's all about creating a relationship with the consumer, showing them love, getting them into a circle of trust. We talked about that, the promiscuous consumer, getting them to be loyal to you, right? Getting a second marriage, and then getting their data, because it's that relationship, the consumer, and the data behind that relationship, which is going to drive basket in the next, in this next wave of retail. Yeah. And right now, and this is really what I go into in the Fast Shopper, the slow store, is now is the opportunity to position yourself as that data warehouse for the consumer. So the showroom is the ideal new data warehouse. The mobile wallet is another data warehouse. And whoever, and there are going to be multiple winners. Whoever captures that niche and starts a digital relationship with the consumer that enables them to extract insights into their behavior will be the winner. And anybody who plods along and tries to sell stuff in a store based on shopper insights, which are more abstract, is going to lose because shopper insights aren't close enough to the consumer anymore.
So where would you rather be when you start to talk about this? Because big data, gathering that data, or would you rather be the ones using that data? So what I'm asking is that would you, like, there's so many companies right now on that payment side. Square kind of blew this industry out. Now there's everybody is getting into this business, from the credit card companies to the merchants to retailers.
They can't afford not to.
They have to. Absolutely, they have to. But would you? You're looking at a business. Both of these industries are disruptive. The payment industry is being disrupted. The retail industry is being disrupted. All through data. Would you rather be the guys collecting it? Because I think that's where you're harvesting a ton of value, or would you rather be the ones that are leveraging that to sell? I mean, they're two different businesses. But where's the most lucrative space to be?
So let's take it back to our poor retailer, because they're the ones that have been the most maligned on this this discussion. The opportunity is for the retailer to take big data, to take control of big data themselves, and then they are the collectors of data and the consumers of the data. And if they don't, they are absolutely going the way of the dodos. And so if they let Google manage their loyalty, if they let Apple with Passbook manage their loyalty, that is a very, very slippery slope. And really, it's a very simple value proposition, is that Google is sitting there. We all know it takes about $7 on every phone in North America from advertising, when they have the payment credentials of the consumer. Because, as you know, when you have payment credentials, by legally you're bound to know your consumer, right?
Yep.
And so with payment credentials come all the information about that consumer, and then by definition, they're buying patterns, even if it's anonymously. And so the retailers need to make a big decision right now. They only have two touch points with the consumer. They can either know their consumer's phone number and have an OTT relationship with that phone number, or they can know the consumer's wallet and have an OTT relationship with that wallet. If they don't, I guess the most important part of this is the OTT. If they don't have a direct, over-the-top relationship that is not disintermediated with any other third party with those two touch points, one, they won't be able to call them for the second date. Mm-hmm. So that's the phone number. And two, they won't be able to buy them dinner. So so if they rely on Google Wallet or Passbook or any other of the intermediaries to house their loyalty or all the value-added services around the wallet, the George Costanza wallet, they won't understand how to re-engage. And if they want to understand how to re-engage, they're going to have to pay Google through the nose. And Google's revenue is going to go from $7 way up to probably $400 per phone. Per phone. That's a really good growth trajectory. And on the other side, and this is where I can't understand why retailers and brands alike aren't more excited about this, is instead of downloading an app into somebody else's basic store where you have to use their protocols for app alerts and you have to use their way of communicating, and if that app is not used or is turfed, you lose that relationship with that consumer. Why is it so difficult for a retailer to understand that the only way of getting a second date or to talk to your consumer, which will never be thrown out and will never be turfed, is a phone number? And I say this, Rob, and you've heard me say this. If you want to pick up your shopper and you go into the proverbial bar and you say, hey, that's a good-looking shopper, or that's a good-looking guy or gal, and you want to pick them up, the only thing that's going to give you the second date is the same thing that got your dad the second date with your mom, which is their damn phone number. And it's not, an app or an NFC tag. Those are great ways of driving some engagement, but if you don't get the trust level to get a phone number from them so you can send them stuff they want, just the way their daughter sends them stuff or their lover sends them stuff. You're not part of the circle of trust. You can give up the ghost now.
Like, it's the visuals that you use are so great. Like, I loved even at Untethered Talks, you use that. You don't walk into a bar and say, hey, got an app, right? That's not the first thing. But
the best thing is that, have you got an NFC tag I can tap?
Exactly.
That would get you in deep trouble in a bar.
100%. Okay? But like, this is almost common sense, right? That relationship. Right. But we went through this phase, I think, in the 90s and 2000 about this globalization, right? Where we could put out a shingle on the web and everybody was our customer, right? Where boundaries disappeared, borders disappeared, distance disappeared, and you could buy from anywhere, from anything, for anything. And so now the challenge here is that, we've talked to a lot of people over these last number of years where audience development is about tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of users in the mobile space, right? And that transcends this when it comes to retail and what we're talking about here. So we went from this mass marketing vehicle, which was like, get it in front of as many people as you can and then curate this much and then sell to this many. But now what you're talking about is really, look, just find your 100 customers and create a relationship with them.
That's what you want, because you know what, the World Wide Web is a lonely place. And if you want to think about what is going to get somebody to come to your checkout as opposed to somebody else's checkout, it's going to be trust, and it's going to be it's what our CRM departments have done from time immemorial, and it's about churn and you're making sure that that the folk that you talk about, those loyal 100, feel you care. And if you are always going to drive more basket from your loyalists than you're going to drive on people who are the sales junkies and coupon clippers, right? And we all know that. And so a brand will pay 10 to 100 times more on a loyalist than they'll pay on a coupon clipping a junkie, because that person is going to, is going to follow the cheapest deal. What you need to do is create some value, which is, I call it like reverse couponing. So you have to get into a situation where you're rewarding people post-purchase, as opposed to incentivizing people pre-purchase with, and the only thing you're incentivizing them with is a short skirt, as opposed to some sort of long-term relationship. Yeah.
I love the analogies. You're killing me. But I think we're starting that way, but I mean, this is a change that transcends not only retail, but it also brings in advertising and the way that you market and the way that you interact with your customers. And
100%.
Like, so this is longer term that this is going to happen. And changes at Untethered.tv. I had the same thing. Is that like what you're talking about just doesn't fit into retail. It fits into newspapers. It fits into media. Something like Untethered.
Well, let me just throw you mentioned advertising. Yeah. I mean, advertising. And I know this because, the whole idea of saying to somebody, look, I'm here, I'm a branded message, I'm a billboard, I'm, in the mall, I'm an advert on some sort of, digital media, whatever it is. And all it is to say, hey, I'm here, I'm a Boss jacket, and I'm here to say I love you, is such a pathetic advertising vehicle in 2010 when your customers are saying, I want to buy you, and part the purchase can turn into purchase. What is this part the purchase thing? Part the purchase is an excuse to abandon your shopping cart, because part the purchase is a very perilous path. And so from this ad says, hi, I'm here, to bricks and mortar or cloud is a perilous journey where you have your competitors trying to eat your lunch the whole way. You have to move from path to purchase. Screw the path. And media has an opportunity to say not only, hi, I'm here, but hi, I'm here, I'm for sale. and people need to understand that media can have a shopping network overlay. So it's not just about, and the problem is that most agencies, most brands have a media buying agency, they have a digital agency, they have an interactive promotional agency, etc. And I know those guys meet And I know they try to be congenial, and share ideas, and everybody's very mature. But the reality is that they leave those meetings and do what they do, which is buy media, run promotions, and they try and grow their budgets. So the reality is that, and we talked about this before, is that mobile, for whatever mobile means, is the most time we spend on one media and the lowest budget that we allocate. And what we need to do is to say, instead of saying, let's allocate more budget to mobile, because that's not what I'm advocating. Mobile is really cost effective, is to take your mobile and shove it into your print and shove it into the other less utilized vehicles to give it a new life. And that's where the evolution of retail is to take this newfound interactivity, and we're not talking about the web, we're talking about the newfound interactivity on devices like this, and shove it into your print. Keep the print budgets high, but make them purchase vehicles and not hi, I'm here.
I love that. That bears. It's worth repeating that. Simply, when I talk to a lot of media companies that their whole business is on advertising, right? It is a one-way relationship. They can't get it through their head that they have to be commerce enabling. That's what. If you're a newspaper, if you are doing advertising as your business, you know what? You can't stop at the page, right? You are going to be judged now on what happens next. So you got that ad. That's great. But how many times did a customer buy as a result of that ad? And not just go into the store and say, I saw the ad. It's like, no, enable commerce at that moment, right then and there.
And let me add something to that, is that if we go back to loyalist engagement, that loyalist sees that blazer, whatever it is. And I always say, when you window shop, you would not window shop if that store didn't open in the morning. Right. You window shop because there's a possibility of purchase. People only are interested in your product because they have the possibility of buying it. So give them the opportunity to buy the damn thing. And let me tell you, statistically I can tell you, when we put a messaging call to action to our customers out there to say, message product information, full launch, sale, whatever it is, we get, say, let's say an N click-through rate. When we start talking about, when we introduce color, and when we introduce a shopping call to action, in other words, it's not just that we have a full promotion, and click here and buy it, we get 6 times, 6N, the click-through rate. So I can tell you right here, as I live and breathe, that this is not an abstract concept. Your loyalists want to buy. You need to focus on your loyalists. You need to get them in your circle of trust through all your retail touch points so that they don't abandon you when they're shopping across and fluidly and promiscuously across all those touch points. And then give them something to buy. And I can't understand how a retailer who's in the business of selling can't understand that the consumer wants to buy.
Like, it's mind-boggling, isn't it? Because, like,
it is.
This is your business.
What is that? What is that?
Like, oh man. All right. You know what? I that's one of the key things. Obviously, is enabling your customers to buy and focusing. Maybe that's 2 things: enabling them to buy and making sure that you're focusing on those loyalists, the customers that are going to come back to you time again, right? And they're going to be the ones that are okay if you're out of inventory because they love you. You've created a relationship. You'll probably be able to charge. You'll see incremental price increases because they love you. So they're not worried about price comparison, right? So this is a great way to, increase your, everything that loyalty brings with this. But what else? Is there anything else that we're missing here that these retailers, and I don't even care if it's retailers. I'm talking about newspapers and media and print.
Yeah, no, of course.
What else can we do?
All the same. They're all the same. I mean, look, I cannot. I mean, we can go through
500 of them. Yeah, exactly.
Health vertical. We can go through sports. I mean, entertainment. They're all in the same quandary. Really, it's universal. It's the same. They disintermediate with the same device. So their solutions have to follow the same trend. Look, what I say is not always an easy pill to swallow, and it's probably more difficult to actually integrate this into your business practice. So it's not as if I'm being too flippant. It's a very painful process. And CIOs have to start sleeping with CMOs, and they don't even like each other. I mean, this is a very ugly thing. But the bottom line is it has to happen, there are no quick fixes. There is no app for this one. And there is no, there's nothing that you can, there's no memo that you can get that you can execute on. Each business is going to have a different take on this. But what I can tell you is that it follows principles that you should be aligning yourself with even before mobile entered your lexicon. Right. So it's about those basic customer service relationship engagement tenets, which pre-exist, and a good retailer should adhere to those with or without mobile. If you do that, and you just make sure that you're letting the mobile consumer across all these screens interact with you and love you and feel that you care about them and you want them to buy your product at any touch point, if you embed that into the philosophy of your store, you'll just be better off. And how you execute that is a longer conversation. I call that retail therapy. And if you want to come and do some retail therapy with me, I'm happy to spend another hour talking about a specific case study or a specific. Actually, I'm at the Direct Marketing Association in Vegas. They've given me a whole afternoon to do retail therapy with the retail.
I see it. I love it. I picture like, couches and a chair.
Exactly.
It's like, okay, sit down, tell me your problems. And you know what? I can imagine it's just basically, a steady line of people coming in looking to say, okay, this is my problem. But they're all suffering from the same thing. And it's like, it's exactly as you said, like the two takeaways for me here very clearly. Focus on the customers that are loyal to you and sell, right? Just
exactly.
Like everything that you should be doing is driving towards sales. So, oh man, like this is why I love it, Gary. Is that we're 45 minutes into this, and I could probably keep going all day with this with you, and I'm sure that everybody who's watching or listening to this wants to do that, but. We're going to leave some mystery here because you do have this book that is out, Fast Shopper, Slow Store. It's available on Amazon, Kindle, Amazon Store, digital download. Where else should we be driving people?
Oh, obviously Barnes & Noble, iTunes, any place that sells digital.
Anything.
Anything downloaded. It's actually only $1. My first book came out in hardback, much to my chagrin. And although it's a good read, I wanted to get it out to the masses, and it's sort of counter-antithetical to talk about a fast shopper without letting them consume you quickly. So
get it right away.
It goes live at the end of the month, and you can pre-order it now, and it's $1. So please do.
God, I love it. I love it. And we'll have a link to it in the show notes as well as the summary. But I mean, in the interim, you can go to theimpulseeconomy.com. You'll see it. I'm just going to pull this up right here. This is the cover of the book right there, Fast Shopper, Slow Store. And it's called A Guide to Courting and Capturing the Mobile Consumer by Gary Schwartz, who has been my guest here today. Gary, man, I can't thank you enough for doing this. We shouldn't wait. The last time we sat down really on camera was MEF America's last December in Miami, where you were just about to release your the Impulse Economy. So we can't be this we can't take this much time between. Like, it is ridiculous.
Absolutely. We'll date more.
Yes, we'll definitely will. Definitely will. My guest has been Gary Schwartz, the author of Fast Shopper, Slow Store, and The Impulse Economy. Both great reads. Go and download them now, I'm sure. And the chair of MEF America is also the CEO of Impact Mobile. Gary's a busy guy, and I really appreciate him taking the time to do this. Thank you, Gary, so much.
Thanks so much for having me, Rob.
You guys out there, wherever you are, whatever you are doing, man, I can't thank you how much I appreciate the fact that you spent some time with me. Like, you know what? I've had people email me saying, like, I listen to you at the gym. I listen to you fall asleep. I listen to you when I wake up. I listen to you in the car. Wherever you do it, it means a ton that you do spend this much time, whether you're into chunks, you're just listening to segments of this. Hopefully you found a tremendous amount of value. I know that a guy like Gary brings a ton of value to your business, and you should be leveraging this any way that you possibly can. I'll leave that up to you. But we will be back with another episode of Untether.tv soon. Gary, thanks, man.
Thanks so much, man. Speak to you soon.
See you, everybody.